Get out of my house, now! Those 5 words echoed through the kitchen at 2 a.m., my voice cold as ice. Janice and her 2 friends stood frozen by the wide-open refrigerator, holding my husband's expensive bottle of wine, the one he'd been saving for our 5-year anniversary in 3 weeks. The fluorescent light shone directly on my sister-in-law's perfectly made-up face, but this time there was no familiar sweet smile. Instead, there was confusion mixed with anger at being caught red-handed. "Courtney, Janice stammered. "I don't care." I stepped forward and snatched the bottle from her hand. "You have exactly 10 minutes to pack your things and leave my house. If not, I'm calling the police." Dead silence filled the kitchen. Janice's 2 friends exchanged panicked glances. And my sister-in-law? She looked at me as if I'd just slapped her. "If you're watching this video, please hit subscribe and let me know where you're watching from." Because what happened over the past 7 days transformed me from a kind, always accommodating woman into someone who had to learn how to say no. And that was the most expensive lesson of my life. To understand why I, Courtney Harper, 30 years old, elementary school teacher, someone everyone says is easygoing and kind, could say such harsh words, I need to tell you about Janice. My sister-in-law, Janice Morrison, 28 years old, is the type of person who becomes the center of attention in any room. Golden blonde hair, a radiant smile, and the ability to make everyone feel like they're the most important person in the world, at least for the first 5 minutes. She works in marketing, specializing in social media, and is truly skilled at creating the perfect image on Instagram. But behind those perfectly filtered photos is a completely different person. Janice's apartment? I'd been there once and never forgot it. Clothes scattered everywhere, dishes piled high in the sink, and the smell from a trash can that hadn't been emptied in a week. But more importantly, Janice has a special talent for turning every demand into a cute request, every problem of hers into someone else's responsibility. And me? I'm the complete opposite. Simple. I like straightforwardness, and I judge people by their actual actions rather than appearances. My husband David always says I'm the realest person he's ever met. That's why he loves me, and also why I often get taken advantage of. 3 weeks ago, David got news he had to go on a business trip to Denver for 2 weeks, a big contract his company had been pursuing all year. I understood this was an important opportunity for his career, even though 2 weeks was the longest we'd been apart since getting married 4 years ago. "Will you be okay?" David asked the night before he left, his hand stroking my hair. "Go ahead, I'll be fine." I smiled. "I can use the time to grade papers and watch those chick flick movies you hate." David laughed, but still looked worried. "I'll ask Janice to come check on you a few times, so you won't be lonely." I forced a smile. David's intention was genuine, but he didn't understand that there are some good intentions I'd rather do without. On the 3rd day after David left, the doorbell rang at 6 p.m. I had just gotten home and was changing after a long day with a noisy classroom. When I opened the door, Janice stood there with a radiant smile, carrying a bottle of wine and a designer handbag. "Courtney, David asked me to come keep you company so you wouldn't be lonely." I knew about this. David had texted ahead. "Oh, thanks, but I'm fine." "Don't be so formal, I already brought wine." Janice walked straight into the house without waiting for me to invite her. "Wow, your house is always so neat. I really need to learn from you." In 4 years of being sisters-in-law, that was the phrase Janice repeated most often. But her apartment never changed. That evening wasn't bad. We drank wine, watched Netflix, and Janice talked about her work. But when she was getting ready to leave at 10 o'clock, Janice stopped at the door. "Oh, Courtney, can I stay the night? I'm having a bit of trouble with my roommate." "What kind of trouble?" I asked. "Oh, nothing major. Just a small misunderstanding about rent." Janice smiled sweetly. "I'll sort it out tomorrow. Do you mind?" I hesitated. Our house has 2 bedrooms, but David uses the second one as an office. "Can you sleep on the sofa?" "Of course, I'm not picky." Janice clapped her hands. "You're the best." That was my first mistake. but I didn't know it yet. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. to get ready for work. Janice was still asleep on the sofa, her blonde hair spread across the pillow, looking like an angel. I left a note on the kitchen table. Please lock the door when you leave. Spare key is in the bowl on the table. When I came home at 4 p.m., I was surprised to see Janice's car still parked outside. But I was even more surprised when I walked into the house. Loud laughter echoed from the living room. 3 unfamiliar girls were sitting on my sofa holding cocktails, the coffee table a mess with various snacks and beauty magazines. Janice was sitting on the carpet, phone in hand, recording a video. "Courtney's home!" Janice jumped up, still holding the phone. "Girls, this is my wonderful sister-in-law." The 3 girls turned to look at me, smiled politely, but didn't stand up. What is this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Oh, I'm shooting content for Instagram, and I just realized the lighting in your house is perfect for shooting," Janice said excitedly. "I called some friends over to film together. You don't mind, do you?" I wanted to say I minded. I wanted to say that my house wasn't a photo studio, but 3 pairs of eyes were looking at me, and the voice in my head whispered, "Don't make a scene. Don't be the bad guy. It's just one afternoon." "No, I don't mind," I said. "You're the best." Janice hugged me. "Oh, could you make some snacks? We're getting a bit hungry." And just like that, I found myself in the kitchen, making nachos and guacamole for 4 girls I'd never met, while they laughed and took photos in my living room. That evening stretched until 11 p.m. By the time Janice's 3 friends finally left, I was exhausted. The living room looked like a war zone. Pillows scattered everywhere, cups and glasses in disarray, crumbs all over the carpet. "I'll clean up tomorrow, okay?" Janice said, yawning. "I'm so tired." "Are you planning to stay again?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "If you don't mind, I think the issue with my roommate needs a few more days to resolve." Janice looked at me with big round eyes. "You wouldn't make me go back to that apartment, would you? I'm really stressed right now." I sighed. "Okay, but you need to clean up." "Of course," Janice kissed my cheek. "You're the best sister-in-law." But the next morning when I woke up, the living room was still a mess, and Janice was still sound asleep on the sofa. Day 4 turned from annoying to a nightmare. I came home at 4 p.m. after a tiring day of teaching, hoping for some peace and quiet. Instead, I heard EDM music blasting from inside the house, so loud I could hear it from the street. When I opened the door, I was stunned. Not just the 3 friends from yesterday, but 4 more people. 7 strangers in my house, with food from who knows where spread all over the table, the smell of alcohol wafting through, and they were using my pool. "What the hell?" I exclaimed, running to the backyard. 3 girls were sitting by the pool, feet dangling in the water, while a man I'd never met was swimming in a women's bikini, probably as some kind of joke. "Janice!" I shouted. My sister-in-law appeared from inside the house, phone in hand, live streaming. "Courtney, you're home! Everyone, this is my sister-in-law." "Turn that off," I pointed at the phone, "and explain what's going on." Janice turned off the live stream, her face flushed. "I'm sorry, but I have a brand collaboration deal and they need pool content. I thought—" "You thought what?" My voice rose. "Who gave you permission to use the pool? Who gave you permission to bring strangers into my house?" One of Janice's friends, a dark-haired girl with heavy makeup, chimed in, "Hey, we're just helping Janice with her work. No need to—" "I'm not talking to you." I cut her off, looking straight at Janice. "I want everyone out of my house, right now." Janice looked at me as if I'd just slapped her. But I haven't finished the content." "I don't care." There was an uncomfortable moment of silence. Then Janice cried. Not real crying, but calculated crying. Red-rimmed eyes, trembling lips, just enough to make me look like the villain. You really won't let me finish my work?" Janice's voice trembled. "I promise this brand, if I don't deliver the content, I'll lose the deal." And suddenly, I became the bad guy. Janice's friends looked at me with disapproval. One person whispered something to the person next to them, and I felt pressure weighing down on my shoulders. "Fine," I finally gave in. "But 1 hour, and no more mess." Janice immediately brightened up. Thank you, you're the best. 1 hour became 3 hours. 3 hours became an impromptu party with pizza delivery, more alcohol, and loud laughter that lasted until 1 a.m. I lay in bed texting David. I miss you so much. Things at home are a bit complicated. David replied after 10 minutes. Are you okay? Is Janice helping you feel better? I looked at the message, not knowing how to respond. Finally, I just typed, I'm fine, you focus on your work. On day 5, things crossed the line. That morning, Janice announced that she needed a private room for streaming and professional content creation. Which room? I asked, though I already knew the answer. David's office. It has amazing natural light and a professional background, Janice said. I only need it for a few days. No, that's David's private office. But he's not home, Janice protested. And you know my career is taking off. I need the right space to... I said no. This time I didn't give in. But that afternoon when I came home, I discovered David's office door wide open. Janice had gone in on her own, moved things around, set up ring lights, and turned my husband's office into a temporary studio. I said no, I shouted. I'm sorry, but I have a deadline, Janice said, continuing to adjust the camera. I'll put everything back after I'm done. No, you need to move out right now. But Janice ignored me, continuing her setup. And this time she didn't even cry to manipulate me. She simply did what she wanted, as if my house was hers. I stood there, trembling with anger, but not knowing what to do. Call the police? She's my sister-in-law. Drag her out? That would create terrible family drama. Call David? He was busy with an important presentation. So I retreated to the bedroom, closed the door, and cried. Cried out of anger, out of helplessness, out of the feeling of having my space violated. That night, at 2 a.m., was the moment I mentioned at the beginning. The moment I caught Janice and 2 friends rummaging through my refrigerator, taking David's anniversary wine. But that wasn't all. When I came downstairs, because I heard noise, I also saw one of Janice's friends opening a drawer in the living room, rifling through our financial papers. What are you doing? I asked, my voice shaking with horror. The girl jumped, dropping the stack of papers. Oh, I was just looking for a bottle opener. In the financial documents drawer? I stepped closer. In the pile of bank statements and mortgage documents? Janice appeared from the kitchen. Courtney, don't overreact. Overreact? I exploded. You're ransacking my house at 2 a.m. You're reading my private financial documents. This isn't overreacting. This is me catching you red-handed, violating my privacy. And that's when everything came together. 7 days of endurance, continuous disrespect, the feeling that my home was no longer mine. Get out of my house, now, I said, my voice cold as ice. Janice tried to argue, but this time I wasn't listening. I took out my phone. I'm calling the police. You have 10 minutes to leave before they get here. You wouldn't dare, Janice challenged. You'll have to explain to David, to Mom, and Dad. I will explain. I looked straight into her eyes. I'll explain that I caught you and your friends ransacking my house at 2 a.m. I'll explain about you bringing strangers into my house without permission, about you taking over David's private room after I said no. And most importantly, I'll show them the footage from the security cameras that you didn't know we had installed. Janice's face went pale. Security cameras? Yes, I nodded. In the living room, in the kitchen, and even by the pool. Everything you've done over the past 7 days has been recorded. Actually, we only had cameras at the front door and by the pool, but Janice didn't need to know that. Silence descended. Janice's 2 friends had already started hurriedly packing their things. You can't do this. Janice's voice weakened. I can, and I am. I pointed to the door. Leave, and don't ever come back unless I invite you. 15 minutes later, the house was quiet again. I stood in the middle of the messy living room, shaking from adrenaline and emotion. Then I did the only thing I could do. I called David. It was 2:30 a.m. in Colorado, but he answered after the second ring. Hello? What's wrong? And I told him everything. No hiding, no softening. I told him about the past 7 days. about each small violation accumulating into an unacceptable situation, about tonight. David was silent for a long while after I finished. Then he sighed. "I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" I repeated. "Is that all you want to say?" "No. I want to say I should have trusted you more." David's voice was serious. "I know Janice can be overwhelming, but I thought as her sister-in-law you would be able to handle it. That was my mistake. You shouldn't have to endure anything that makes you uncomfortable in your own home." I didn't expect David to react this way. I thought he'd defend his sister, or at least say I was overreacting. "I'll talk to Janice," David continued, "and I'll talk to Mom and Dad. They need to know that this behavior is unacceptable." "You're not angry with me?" "Angry? Sweetheart, I'm proud of you." David's voice was warm. "You set boundaries. That's what I've always wanted you to do more of. I know you don't like confrontation, but sometimes it's necessary. And tonight, you did the right thing." I cried, but this time out of relief, out of being supported, out of knowing I wasn't alone. The next morning, I spent the whole day cleaning the house. Every corner bore traces of the violation. Water stains on the hardwood floor, crumbs on the sofa, Janice's equipment still in David's office. I cleaned up each item, sending photos to David. "Evidence," I wrote, in case Janice denies it. But Janice didn't deny it. Instead, she started a different campaign, a pity campaign. She called David's parents, crying that I kicked her out in the middle of the night over a small misunderstanding. Mrs. Morrison, my mother-in-law, called me that afternoon. "Courtney, can you explain what happened?" And I explained, in detail calmly, and with evidence from camera recordings. I sent her short clips, Janice and friends in the pool without permission, them raiding the fridge at 2 a.m., the scene of Janice's friend opening the financial documents drawer, silence stretched on the other end of the line. Then Mrs. Morrison sighed heavily. "You know, Courtney, sometimes I wonder if I did something wrong raising Janice." Her voice trembled. "I've always known she has a tendency to take advantage. But I thought when she grew up she'd mature." "You don't need to apologize for Janice," I said gently. "But I need you to understand that I can't let this continue. This is my and David's home. I have the right to feel safe and respected in my own house." "You're absolutely right," Mrs. Morrison replied. "And I'll talk to Janice, seriously this time. She needs to learn that actions have consequences." The call ended with a sense of relief. At least I wasn't seen as the villain in this. But Janice hadn't given up. That afternoon, she appeared at my door. Alone this time, no friends. Simple clothes, no makeup, red-rimmed eyes. "Courtney, can I talk to you?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to close the door immediately, but the other part, my soft-hearted part, the part that always believes in improvement, opened the door. "5 minutes," I said. We stood at the entrance. I didn't invite her inside. Janice looked down at the floor, hands clutching her purse. "I'm sorry." Her voice was hoarse. "I know an apology isn't enough, but I'm truly sorry. I went too far." I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. I thought because you're always so kind, always say yes, that I could push further each time." Janice looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "But I didn't realize how far I'd crossed the line. Not until you got angry." "Janice," I sighed, "do you know how I felt that night when you guys ransacked my house? I felt violated. I felt unsafe in my own home. This isn't just about you being annoying or inconvenient, it's about respect." "I know," Janice nodded. "And I'm sorry. I'll never do that again." "You say that now," I said. "But how do I know you'll keep your word? This isn't the first time you've crossed boundaries. It's just the first time I dared to say no." Janice looked at me, and this time I saw something different in her eyes. Not manipulation, but genuine shame. "You're right," she admitted. "I've taken advantage of your kindness many times, and I can't promise I'll be perfect immediately, but I can promise I'll try, and I'll respect your boundaries from now on." I looked at my sister-in-law. a 28-year-old girl still learning how to be an adult, still struggling with concepts of responsibility and respect. And I realized that part of the responsibility was also mine. I had allowed this to happen by never saying no, never setting clear boundaries. "Okay," I finally said. "I accept your apology, but from now on, we'll have clear rules. You can't come to my house without notice. You can't bring strangers in without permission. And you certainly can't use anything in this house as if it's yours. Understood?" "Understood." Janice nodded firmly. "I understand completely." "Good. Then we can move forward." I opened the door wider. "But Janice, if you violate any rule next time, there won't be a third chance. Do you understand?" "Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance." When Janice left, I stood watching her car disappear down the street. I didn't know if she would truly change, but at least now she knew I had limits, and I would enforce them. David came home 2 days later, a day earlier than expected. He walked in with his rolling suitcase and a huge bouquet of roses. "You're home!" I ran to hug him, nearly knocking him over. David laughed, arms wrapped tightly around me. "I missed you so much, and I'm sorry for everything that happened." "You don't need to apologize anymore." I stepped back, looking into his eyes. "You supported me. That's what matters most." We spent that evening together, just the two of us, with a simple dinner and the anniversary wine, the bottle Janice almost took. David told me about the business trip, the successful deal, and his promotion. But most importantly, he held my hand. "I learned that I need to listen to you more. I thought having Janice come over would help you feel better while I was gone, but I didn't ask what you wanted. I just assumed." "You had good intentions." I touched his face. "But sometimes good intentions aren't enough. Sometimes asking and listening is more important than trying to fix things." David nodded. "I'll remember that." 2 weeks later, we hosted a small dinner, David, me, his parents, and Janice. This time, Janice arrived on time, bringing a bottle of wine and a handwritten letter. "This is for you." She handed me the envelope. I wrote everything I wanted to say. I opened it after everyone had left. It was a 3-page letter, carefully handwritten, in which Janice admitted every wrongdoing, explained that she was looking for a therapist to work on her boundary issues and entitled behavior, and committed to becoming a better sister-in-law, sister and friend. I didn't know if all of this would truly stick. Real change takes time. But it was a start, and I decided to give her the chance to prove herself. Now, 3 months after that incident, life has returned to normal. Or rather, a new, healthier normal. Janice still visits, but always gives notice, always asks permission, and never stays past 6 p.m. unless invited. More than that, I learned an important lesson about myself. For many years, I prided myself on being easygoing, someone who doesn't bother anyone. But I realized there's a fine line between being kind and being a doormat. Setting boundaries doesn't make me selfish or mean. It makes me someone who respects myself. And when I respect myself, others learn to respect me too. Last week, a colleague complained that she's always being taken advantage of by family and friends. I told her my story about Janice, about those 7 hellish days, and about the night I finally said no. "But weren't you afraid they'd get angry or hate you?" she asked. I was afraid, I admitted. But I was more afraid of losing myself. I was more afraid of becoming someone without a voice, without boundaries, without a sense of self. And I realized that people who truly love me will respect my boundaries. And those who don't, maybe they don't deserve to be in my life. Tonight, as I sit in my own living room, clean, quiet, just David and me with a movie and a bowl of popcorn, I feel a sense of peace I haven't felt in years. My phone buzzes. A text from Janice. "Hey, Courtney, can I come over for dinner next week? I'll bring dessert, but if you're busy, I totally understand." I smile and type a reply. "Sure. Saturday at 6? And remember, just you, no crowd." "Deal. Thank you." David looks over my shoulder, reading the message. "Do you think she's really changed?" "I think she's trying," I answer. "And that's all I can ask for. But if she crosses the line again?" I look straight into David's eyes. This time I won't hesitate. I've learned how to set boundaries, and I'll keep them. David kisses my forehead. I love this strong woman. And you know what? I lean into his shoulder. I'm also learning to love myself. If you're watching this video and you're in a similar situation, being taken advantage of by family, walked over by friends, or having your boundaries disrespected by anyone, remember this. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set limits. And you're not a bad person for protecting your peace and space. Real family isn't about shared blood. Real family is about people who respect you, love you unconditionally, and never make you feel small or taken advantage of. Sometimes the greatest kindness you can give yourself is learning how to say no. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. So my question for you is, if you were in this situation, would you forgive and give a second chance, or would you cut them off completely? Leave your comments below. I want to hear your story. And if this video helped you, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more stories about finding yourself and standing up for yourself. Remember, you teach people how to treat you, and it's time we teach them that we deserve respect. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm Courtney, and I'll see you in the next video.